Hey, good evening, everybody. Solomon here. Good morning, good afternoon. Tonight's video is going to be a little bit different than usual. I'm going to read through a document that just came out yesterday from Accenture. If you're not aware, Accenture is a Ripple partner, and this follows on the heels of today's announcement. Former Commodities and Futures Trading Commission chairman announces the Digital Dollar Project. So basically, starting to research a central bank digital currency for the United States. Well, it's about time. So, the digital 21st century is underserved by an analog reserve currency, said Chris Giancarlo. A digital dollar would help future proof the greenback and allow individuals and global enterprises to make payments in dollars, irrespective of space and time. We are launching the Digital Dollar Project to catalyze a digital tokenized U.S. currency that would coexist with other Federal Reserve liabilities and serve as a settlement medium to meet the demands of the new digital world and a cheaper, faster, and more inclusive global financial system. So, following on the heels of that, I saw, just doing a little bit of research into Accenture, because that is this digital dollar project, and you'll see here in a second, ties in with Accenture. And Accenture is a Ripple partner, which we all, or most of us, know. If you're not aware that they are, I will show you the documentation here at the end. But so this just came out yesterday. This is a new white paper, basically, or part two of a white paper, I should say. The Re-Evolution of Money 2, Blockchain Empowered Central Bank Digital Currencies. This document, I read through it briefly. I am going to go through it with you a little bit more in depth here, so I may see some things that interest me a little bit more. But it's a little bit of a longer document, and it really paints a picture of how far along blockchain initiatives and DLT initiatives are globally. So let's just read the briefing here. Innovations in tokenization and decentralization are evolving to meet demands for money and efficient payments and local and global transactions. Central bank digital currency has been actively explored to prove security, scalability, and resiliency of the systems and technology. As key monetary innovators, central banks can create better performing, more resilient payment architectures by leveraging new technology. Collaborations include the Bank of Canada, which we know has Ripple relationships, Monetary Authority of Singapore, same thing, European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, and Sweden's Riksbank, and the Digital Dollar Project, which was just announced today. So this is the entire document here. This just came out yesterday. I don't think anybody posted this yet. If you did, good find, because I didn't see it announced yesterday. I was actually just searching around on Accenture's website and stumbled upon this. So again, this is from January 15th, so yesterday. The Revolution of Money 2, Blockchain Empowered Central Bank Digital Currencies. Bear with me, this is a little bit of a read here. 21 pages, but it does, you can skip through this if you want to. There are some interesting things just by browsing that I already have seen. Mainly the talk about an international CBDC is a possibility, which I'm curious how they would do an international central bank digital currency. I mean, that's kind of that's a conundrum right there, because a central bank digital currency is of a central bank of a nation, right? So an international one, I wonder what they would potentially think about using. I'm not explicitly saying XRP, but it is interesting. So the needs for central bank money are evolving. And real quick, this also touches base on all the other initiatives. So you've got Project Stella in here, Jasper Ubin, all these different DLT initiatives that all these central banks and governments are getting into. So this is a very interesting document. The needs for central bank money are evolving. The emergence of new financial ecosystems require new media of exchange. Central bank money remains the preferred settlement medium for large value transactions. But a new format of money is required. The financial architecture is strained. National payments infrastructures are siloed, excessively concentrated, and exhibit high barriers of entry. International payments are hindered by important friction amid undue reliance on correspondent banking, use of a narrow set of currencies, and high transaction costs. The risk creating financial fragmentation and instability, producing liquidity blockages and inducing inefficiencies in payment relations. So this is just kind of a forward here. So I want to get into the meat of this thing. Introduction. CBDCs leverage the advantages of blockchain. They do get into crypto in this too. So like I said, this is a longer document, so bear with me here. The emergence of private currencies, crypto assets as mediums of exchange has projected scope for payments innovation and fostered the debate towards change. While the proliferation of crypto instruments remains uncertain, so how important are private cryptocurrencies going to be? The coexistence of private and official currencies appears to be a high probability outcome. We all know this. We all know that every country in the world, probably within the next 10 years, is going to have their own central bank digital currency. So the proliferation of stable coins and utility settlement coins, both exhibiting shortcomings, indicates that there is demand for tokenized currencies. Central banks have a historical opportunity to define new standards for digital currencies. Similar to their role at the beginning of modern central banking to harmonize notes and coinage, central banks can provide needed support for new token-based ecosystems. Many central banks have engaged in central bank digital currency projects. Blah, blah, blah. The typical interdependence between large value payment systems, in particular real-time gross settlement systems and central securities depository security settlement systems, implies that the impact of central bank digital currencies extends to immediate and intermediate payment applications. Recent advances in blockchain technologies allow largely refute residual concerns about maturity of blockchain, privacy of blockchain, interoperability of blockchain, and scalability of blockchain. So I'm curious what recent advancements those are. We haven't directly heard anything, so this is of interest to me for sure, because we know who these institutions are tied into. There's not too many blockchain consortiums out there. There's probably a handful of them that are major. So interoperability, scalability, privacy, and maturity. Successful pilot projects have demonstrated that blockchain can meet performance of existing technologies and payments. We know that already. I'm sick of the pilot projects. I'm sure you are also. Now, central banks can act now as catalysts to help shape a new emerging financial architecture. While considerations for CBDCs will differ among various use cases for retail, wholesale, and cross-border transactions, national preferences and international arrangements will be critical. So they're talking about, again, this goes into the problem with CBDCs. We all know that digitalization is here. We all know that CBDCs are here. I'm sure that there will be agreements between certain nations to be able to utilize certain CBDCs, but you've still got to get into the base currency somehow, right? So this goes into, again, wholesale and cross-border transactions and national preferences regarding CBDCs. They're going to need international arrangements. That's going to be critical. And I'm not sure how they're going to facilitate some of those. So this is interesting also. Recent blockchain developments. The readiness of blockchain-enabled payment solutions has made significant progress during the past 6 months. They talk about some of these different initiatives here. I'm not going to get into all of them. I do want to get into Bank of Japan and European Central Bank, which is Stella. And I have the Stella document pulled up here. They have underneath here, this is related analysis and main results of Stella Phase 3, selected private sector initiatives. And this is Ripple. They're talking about Xcurrent. So we know that Xcurrent does not need to utilize XRP, but we know that it can. This is Project Stella mentioned in the Accenture paper. So Ripple has developed Xcurrent, which connects financial institutions via a global network of participating entities. Xcurrent is built around Interledger Protocol and enables bi-directional communication. They also talk about ILP up here, I believe. Yeah. A community group of the Worldwide Web Consortium is developing further the Interledger Protocol. Well, we all know where that's going. I'm not going to get too deep into that. I want to get back into this Accenture document. Bank of Canada and Monetary Authority of Singapore. I thought I had that one pulled up, but I do not. So I'm going to keep going down through here. Money and payment challenges. So this is like all complete validation of everything that we've known. This is why I find this document so fascinating. This is why we know that CBDCs are still going to come about. They're still going to basically slowly phase out fiat in a digital form, which, as we all know, does not solve the end problem, but it is going to be faster. It's going to be faster, and it's going to provide, I'm sure, certain capabilities as far as interoperability is concerned, depending on what we just have seen above with certain international agreements that are going to need to be made. Now, the one thing that's interesting, though, is that these international agreements they're not going to be across the board. So this document does get into this a little bit here. Money and payment relations are not operating as intended. Based on the repeated incidents of financial crisis, liquidity shortfalls, high transaction costs, and cross-border payments. That's the XRP use case. Elevated exchange rate volatility. That's the XRP use case. Undue delays in securities clearing and settlements, security breaches, and market manipulation. I'm going to browse through here real quick. It's talking about T+2, T+3 settlement times. Cross-border payments are marred by long delays and high transaction costs. The importance of correspondent banking has remained, while international claims of banks have been declining significantly since the global financial and economic crisis. Well, if they thought 2008 was bad, I don't know what they're going to be doing here in the next couple of years. Probably why a lot of movements currently being made. The reliance on the dollar to conduct international transactions reinforces dependence on dollar-based financial institutions and dollar-denominated financial assets. This risks creating undue bottlenecks in the distribution of international liquidity. Persistent high exchange rate volatility illustrates the asymmetries in international liquidity distribution. And every single person in the XRP space has been talking about the locked up liquidity here for the past few years. So the shortcomings of the current financial architecture are evident. Large financial concentration risks amid quote-unquote too big to fail. Ineffective financial intermediation through the bank channels. Elevated transaction costs and cross-border payments. Inefficiencies in securities lifestyles, blah, blah, blah. Market manipulation again. Now they talk about CBDCs here. And I'm going to try to get to this portion here if I can. I don't know if necessarily reading through this entire thing is super critical for you all. I can post this if anybody wants to. Here we go. International CBDC. And I'm super curious how they would even try to do this without some sort of a digital asset, because the legality and the hatred that some of these nations have towards each other is one thing, but just the trying to get on a level playing field as far as central banking is concerned on a nation by nation level, to me sounds a bit unrealistic unless they use something we're all agree on using, something that can facilitate that medium of exchange, I guess, or swapping between currencies. So international CBDC. The properties of central bank digital currency may increase its attractiveness relative to other currencies and alter the propensity by non-residents to hold and use a given CBDC. So it sounds like somebody that's in one country wanting to hold the central bank digital currency of another nation if there's an international CBDC. This could affect the demand for blockchain-enabled currencies related to conventional ones. CBDC of a given country could become a currency of choice to conduct international transactions. The properties conducive to conduct digital financial transactions could divert use away from conventional currencies. The properties of CBDC may be conducive to establishing more international currencies. This would ease prevailing reliance on a narrow set of international currencies. I think they're talking about the narrow set of international currencies. I believe they're talking about the SDR here through the IMF, which is special drawing rights, which if you're not aware of the SDR, that's, I believe it's 4 or maybe 5. I know the US dollar is one of them. I think China, I want to say Japan. You guys got to correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't looked into the SDR for a while here, but it's a narrow set of international currencies. So this would ease prevailing reliance on a narrow set of international currencies to conduct international transactions. The greater variety of international currencies, or in parentheses here, establishment of a basket of highly liquid, instantly transformable reserve or trading currencies. What does that sound like to everybody that's listening to this right now? I'm not going to say it, but it has 3 letters, and I don't know. So, could create a more diversified and equitable international payment infrastructure. The role of central bank digital currency may be particularly relevant to promote regional local currency payments integration. The substitution of local currencies with a common multi-central bank digital currency would further reduce transaction costs and minimize foreign exchange exposure in international transactions. They are legitimately talking about XRP's use case right now. I don't want to say that they're talking about XRP, but they're talking about an international central bank digital currency that is going to be in a basket. Basically, the substitution. I'm going to read this again. The substitution of local currencies with a common multi-central bank digital currency would further reduce transaction costs and minimize foreign exchange exposure in international transactions. All right, I'm going to keep moving. That's ridiculous. Finality in payments. CBDC would need to enable certainty and be consistent with the notion that currency parity is maintained. CBDC would need to represent or be convertible at par into central bank money. That is exactly what XRP does. We know that. We've been talking about that for the past couple years now. The singleness of CBDC is a necessary condition to serve effectively in payments and to settle payments with finality. Regulation may need to be adjusted to allow CBDC to qualify towards settlement finality. I did not see this sentence before. So they're not, okay, this is really interesting. They're not saying CBDCs. They're saying one CBDC as an international form to transmit between other central bank digital currencies without any sort of loss in speed, liquidity, any of that stuff. It's going to be an instant transaction. It's going to have finality. Why would they? Holy crap. So this really sounds like XRP. I'm not saying this. This isn't financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not trying to be hypey here. They are calling out one specific thing. Why would regulation need to be adjusted? I'm sure that there are all sorts of transaction laws when it comes to cross-border transactions. But if something is made or has already been made that already interfaces seamlessly between those, that sounds a lot to me like they're not just talking about a central bank digital currency. It sounds more to me like they're trying, and I don't even want to say it, but like they're trying to almost adopt something that already exists. And I think we already know it exists. Regulation may need to be adjusted to allow CBDC, singular, to qualify towards settlement finality. Cryptocurrencies they talk about down here also. So, which again, I don't know if they were talking about XRP. I mean, this goes into all sorts of different stuff here, but it's very interesting that the exact use case that XRP has falls directly underneath international central bank digital currency. I mean, it's the use case, you know, T for T. It's exactly almost what XRP does. So, cryptocurrencies, the emergence of crypto assets may, to some extent, indicate new use cases for currencies. Crypto assets that exhibit currency-like functions have raised important financial stability concerns. Well, no shit, we know what's going on. The notion of private monies denominated in a unit of account unrelated to a central bank issued currency is novel, though, historically, and not new. The utility of such monies will depend on credible alternatives and use cases. The use case of blockchain technologies may offer certain advantages relative to conventional currencies. The lack of regulatory framework for cryptocurrencies remains a significant constraint to broader-based acceptance. Agreed. Regulation may be needed to allow CBDC to qualify towards settlement finality. Cool. It's going into stablecoins, CBDCs here. CBDC design, tokenized CBDC. The issuance of a central bank money into an account at the central bank as a token, also referred to as a value-based issuance, allows digital asset for currency exchanges in retail and wholesale transactions, and enables autonomous peer-to-peer transactions. Tokenized currency would be held in an electronic wallet. Tokenization may represent central bank money or a claim on central bank money. The former would be an unambiguous substitution of and fully fungible with existing central bank money. The latter would represent a digital twin of central bank money. I find this document like extremely interesting. This is like if you're just tuning in right now, this is the European Central Bank. This is the Digital Dollar Initiative. This is the Bank of Canada, Monetary Authority of Singapore, and Sweden's Riksbank. So this is exactly what we've been talking about for so long. I mean, I've known for a couple years now, just based on everything I've seen, CBDCs are going to be widespread, and we'll probably see the first one within the next, I would imagine, 2 years or so. It's just super. It's really interesting to me, and we know that Accenture is a Ripple partner as well. So, delivery versus payment. Talks about utility settlement coin, interest bearing. This may be interesting to some of you out there. You guys that actually look into the way that the central banks, deal with interest and debt and all this stuff. So CBDC offers the possibility to make positive and negative interest payments on currency. This would significantly alter the fundamental functionality of central bank money in the hands of the non-bank public and could broaden the channels for the transmission of monetary policy. The possibility to pay negative interest may ease the constraints for monetary policy at the lower zero bound. The introduction of interest-bearing central bank money in the hands of the non-bank public would establish a direct relationship between monetary policy and the non-bank public. Holders would see their central bank balances increase or decrease with changes of the central bank policy rate. Wow. That doesn't, to me, that doesn't sound good. Holders would see their central bank balances increase or decrease with changes of the central bank policy rate, irrespective of location affecting residents and non-residents alike. While as a direct instrument, it could in theory broaden the transmission channel of central bank policy, it would represent a significant departure from current central bank practices. Okay. KYC, AML, ATF. Talking again about the CBDC projects here. If you're not aware of some of these, they're extremely interesting. So, conclusion, and I'll let you guys read through this conclusion here. I'll read it real quick. Central banks have an opportunity to enable a better payments architecture that connects with broader blockchain-based application. CBDC represents a critical element in this evolution of money to facilitate this architecture and provide, wait for it, a level playing field with conventional platforms that can settle in central bank money. CBDC represents a critical element in the evolution of money to facilitate this architecture and provide a level playing field with conventional platforms that can settle in central bank money. I've read enough of this. That's a lot. I want to get into this a little bit here. This is Payments Canada. And talking about cross-border payments, this is recent as of November 26th, 2019. Interestingly enough, Payments Canada has some big-time participants. Deutsche Bank, Citibank, JP Morgan, PNC Bank, Rabobank, Societe Generale, the Bank of New York Mellon, US Bank, National Association, Bank of China, all these branches in Canada, right, of these huge financial global conglomerate banking corporations. They just so happen to mention stable coins for cross-border payment. And they're not talking about Tether. They're not talking about USDC. They're not talking about utility settlement coin, that banking initiative as a CBDC thing. They're talking about Ripple and they're talking about Stellar. They're talking about XRP. They're not talking about Ripple. They're talking about XRP. My apologies. Stablecoin refers to a class of digital currencies which are relatively stable in terms of their price. Stablecoins offer instantaneous processing and security of payments as many cryptocurrencies do. They also offer stability with respect to their parity against fiat currencies. Two digital currencies that fall under the stablecoins for cross-border payment term are RippleNet's native digital currency. Well, it's not RippleNet's, it's the XRPL. XRPL's native digital currency, XRP, and Stellar. However, they differ in that Ripple is focused on improving cross-border settlement between international banks, whereas Stellar is focused on providing low-cost cross-border payments. Okay. Ripple is focused on improving cross-border settlement between international banks. We know that Ripple has already done proof of concepts with central banks. The Accenture document we just read through is talking about an international central bank digital currency. I don't know. I don't really need to put too much more together here. I'm not specifically saying that it's going to be XRP, but it definitely makes you think. Accenture and Ripple, the journey to real-time cross-border commercial payments using distributed ledger technology. Just to kind of paint the picture, this is older. Again, this is Reese Bank and Ripple. That wasn't Reese Bank here, though, right? Rick's Bank. I don't think Rick's Bank is the same as Reese Bank. But Ripple and Reese Bank, same thing through Accenture. And last but not least, if you're not aware of how big Accenture is, they are a multinational professional services company that provides services in strategy, consulting, digital technology, and operations. A Fortune 500 global company. 43.2 billion net revenue, 492,000 employees, blah, blah, blah. I am going to link the full new document that just came out yesterday, The Revolution of Money 2, Blockchain-Empowered Central Bank Digital Currencies from Accenture, on this video. I hope you enjoyed this. I know it was a little bit longer. Thank you for sitting through it. I'm sure I missed stuff in this. If you see something that I missed, feel free to drop a comment down in the section here. And hey guys, real quick too, I really wanted to say thank you for all the likes and subscribes in the comments. You know, I've been researching XRP, Ripple, and digital currency, blockchain, all this stuff for not that long. I mean, probably a little over a year when I actually started doing my own research. So I really appreciate all the likes. I really appreciate all the comments. I really appreciate everything from you guys. So thank you very much, and have a good night.